Thank you, Eyal. If you could turn off your camera and mute, as well as Elaine, I know you're already there. And if I could invite the panel to turn on their cameras and bring everybody up all at once in terms of this. I'd like to go back to Cheryl first to start with what we'd call what are the good things you've seen, but also if there's any critiquing that you feel is necessary with what you've been presented. Again, thank you, Eyal and Elaine, for the presentation.
Yes, again, thank you. Very interesting. Lots of solutions, some things we didn't touch on, like supplier financing, something that we're actually looking at with Stryker now with our suppliers as we push out payment terms. So I think there's, it was just interesting to me. Like I said, I had a lot of questions. My panel asked, my colleagues asked some of them. It's a different solution that we haven't seen before. And I think it's something that I'm glad we're promoting it here, because I had never heard of, a system quite like this, or a tool quite like this for companies. So I think I'd like to know more about it, honestly, before I could actually critique it. But I think it's an interesting tool, and thank you for presenting it to us.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Cheryl. Let's go to Mike. What are your thoughts? Good things or any kind of critiquing you might have?
Yeah, sure. So listen, for me, large organizations, highly complex organizations, multinational organizations, like the clients that they're listing, the devil's in the details on any one of these things, right? When you're trying to process 500,000 to 2-3 million transactions per year, anytime you can create automation in that process is a win factor for me, right? I think that the value proposition needs to be defined a little bit more. I think that one of the things I'm a little bit concerned with is, and I understand where they're playing in that market where I've got an ERP system and I'm trying to automate some of those processes and I'm creating a relationship between the vendor and the supplier base. I think the big concern I would have would be that the Fortune 100 is spending hundreds of millions of dollars on RPA development on their own, right? I mean, I know 5 Fortune 50s right now that have their own RPA divisions. I think IBM is paying people at IBM to actually create RPA solutions for them. Every employee that comes up with an RPA solution gets a stipend, right, for a bot or some type of process automation. So I think that it's very interesting to me. I like the fact that they've gone down that path with their product set. I would have loved to have heard a little bit more around some of the things that Cheryl said, which is a little bit more of the product as far as supplier finance and things like that goes. But overall, I think it's a good position. Everybody's looking for automation, John, right? Again, there's 2 ways to save money. Either you can figure out how to process something faster and cheaper due to payroll, or you can negotiate a better price on the widget, right? And if you can do both of those things at the same time, and you can provide that value proposition clearly and succinctly to your clients, then fantastic, that's great. I think the other thing I probably would have been interested in getting a little bit more into, but we didn't have time, was where's their footprint right now? How big are they in Europe? How big are they in the United States? What are they doing to try and move into some of the bigger manufacturing or sub-manufacturing spaces in the US as well? So I'd love to peel the onion a little bit more on that as well.
Well, why don't we do this very quickly, just to that last question, Eyal or Elaine, before I pass it over to Hervé. That last question with regards to Michael, do you have anything to add or a comment on footprint?
Step in here. So in terms of footprint, first of all, the company started out in Israel, and so a lot of its activities are in Israel. But we also have a presence in the US, in Boston, and that presence has been there for a number of years. So in Israel, we're extremely strong with a number of very significant multinationals that Eyal showed a slide earlier, companies like HP and Intel, KLA, Tencor, these kind of large global players, but also Israeli players that are global, like Teva Pharmaceuticals, Israel Aerospace Industries, Elbit Systems, cross industry, global players that work with a very large number of suppliers. Yeah. In the United States, we have an active strategic partnership strategy, which is growing very rapidly, and actually you'll be hearing about it over the next few days in terms of different press releases that will be issued. And so we're moving very fast in the US market now with with both partnerships and also direct approach to companies. Which is
Ilan,
something
how old is the company? Just curious.
over 10 years.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, just over 10 years.
Great.
All right, Alain,
Thanks,
thank
John.
you. I remind you to turn off your camera again, please. That would be great because I'm going to hand it over now to Hervé. Positives and any kind of critiquing. I mean, you asked an interesting question about nomenclature and that which is pressing as well. What are your thoughts with what you've seen?
I think when we talk about automation, there's a lot of different ways to automate. And one of them is just to build more and more complex templates where everybody's supposed to fill in exactly the right information. And here, I think one of the good points is you don't need to do that. You just, you can grab all the information in the format it is and pre-filled as much as possible. And then the system can learn to complement. So I think that's a very interesting way, of going about automation, not forcing people to do into, manual input that are really following very, very structured templates. So I think that's really a good point. Now with a lot of, you might know Arthur C. Clarke, he had a sentence, you cannot distinguish technology from magic. Whenever you see new technology, it always looks magic. And in many ways, in the presentation, I would have loved to touch a little bit more the magic, because I'm hearing, I'm listening, I'm getting input on the magic, but I couldn't see it yet. So that'd be my input. It'd been really great to have a bit more of a real case where you see the added value from the technology point of view. There's lots of words, that are very attracting, like, smart, intelligence, AI, OCR. I'd love to see and touch and feel.
All right, Hervé, that is terrific. Listen, we've run just a little bit over time, but Alain and Eyal, again, thank you for taking the time to enter the CPO arena. And as always, panel, you've had some great perspectives, insights. It's certainly a solution that I haven't seen before as well. So for me, it's a continuous journey of learning here. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And to you, the audience, again, this is available, will be available on on-demand basis. And as always, a brief synopsis will be released shortly after we broadcast this sometime over the next couple of weeks, and you can download for free as well. So until we come at you over these virtual airwaves, and we'd like to remind you that the invitation is always open for you to enter the CPO arena. Thank you, everyone.